when we start to talk about algebra, we start using words like expressions and factor and term. And so I'm going to take a moment now and talk about what I mean when I say these things. An expression is just, well, I was talking about in that last slide, when you put something in parentheses, you think of it as just a single number. Well, that is an expression. An expression, I mean, I guess I could go over the definition here. The word expression is used for the general name of any collection of numbers, letters, and connected by arithmetic signs. So this thing right here, x plus y, is an expression. That's an expression. That's an expression. All of these are expressions. You'll notice the thing that all of these are missing is there is no equal sign, because that would not equals. Once you start talking about one thing is equal to something else, you're no longer talking about an expression, you're talking about an equation. You're saying that two things are equal to each other. Ultimately, all of these expressions are just a number. b minus 1 is a number. When you square that, you get a number. X squared plus y squared is a number. When you take the square root of it, you get a number here. This is in contrast to when you're talking about two numbers being equal to each other. That compound thing, if I say 1 equals x, this is not a number. This is a statement. This is saying that these two things are equal. So inherently, the equations and expressions are different things, different beasts, if you will. It's like talking about a single noun in your sentence versus talking about a full, properly formed sentence. That's kind of the difference between these. All right, let's talk about factors. Well, we've already described what factors are when we're talking about, when we were talking about fractions, when we were talking about finding the prime factorization of a number. Factor, the same language is used when we're talking about general expressions. It doesn't have to be just of whole numbers. If we take a times b, then both a and b are factors of that. If we have 2x times x plus 1, 2x and x plus 1 are factors. You could even break it up even more than that and say, well, 2x and x plus 1 are factors. Or you could rearrange things and say 2 times x plus 1 is a factor and x is a factor. I don't know, whatever. The important thing is that when we're talking about factors, the individual parts are multiplied by each other. So r minus 1 and 2r plus 1 are the two factors of this expression. That's a factor, and that's the factor. And I know that because they're multiplied. These parentheses are butted up against each other, and you can see there the operation that would take place there is multiplication. All right, we also use this word terms. Just like factors are talking about parts of a product, terms are talking about parts of a sum. So when we're talking about a term, or terms of an expression rather, these are the parts that are added together. So x plus 4y, well, x and 4y are the two terms here. It would not make sense to call 4 a term here because 4 is not added to anything. It's multiplied by the y. Now, you could kind of drill into this and call 4 the factor of these. 4 is a factor rather of the second term here. So you could talk about that, but 4 is not a term by itself. 2x squared is the first term, and xy is the second term here. Again, 2 is not a term within this expression. 2 is a factor within the first term, sure, but it's not a term by itself. Generally, when we have subtraction, a minus r like this, a would be considered a term, but r is not considered a term here. We would attach that negative value to the r, because if we have a minus r and we want to rewrite this using addition, we would have to call this a plus the opposite of r. We saw this when we were talking about changing subtraction to addition in order to add and subtract negative and positive numbers. It is necessary that these are parts of a sum. So a would be the first term, and the opposite of r would be the second term. R is not a term within the second term, or within that expression.